Cool, we are live. So thank you for joining today's craft event, focused around students and how to level up your craft notes or your study notes using craft as a student. And I'm super excited to introduce Chance, who's here to join us today to share what he's been doing with craft over the past couple of semesters. And really, this is a series of insights into different types of ways to use craft. Like this today's students, but there'll be other discussions in future weeks for all different types of topics and stuff too. So if you've got a great way to use craft, if you've got a fascinating way that you're using it, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to make other kind of events like this happen. So Chance, the stage is yours. Just, as usual, I guess if there's any questions as we go, feel free to pop them in chat or even come on screen. But yeah, over to you, Chance, and let's see what you've got.
Sure thing. Yeah. All right, let me share my screen here. Cool. Here we go. You guys able to see this?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so basically I've been using craft for 2 semesters. I've picked up a couple things here and there that I think work really great, especially with the direction that craft is moving. So I just want to walk through some of that. Yeah, so I'd like to start off a little bit of like where we kind of are right now in student notes. So I've got the slide here. Google Docs is a popular note-taking app, mostly for documents, lots of things, super shareability, and you can, sort of customize it slightly. You can see here are some cell biology notes that I took for fall of 2020. And, it's got like a nice outline on the side, you can pull it up on mobile, you can insert things on that, but in general, you really have to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Hyperlinking other docs in here has been kind of annoying because links, you have to open up a new web page and it takes a while. You also need internet. And of course, 1 out of 32 pages you can see is how long this document is. So then let's go over to craft. So this is my landing page for a developmental biology class. You can see that I've got a great background on my sidebar. I've got my other courses there. Of course, some other personal things like that. And then on mobile, you really have like a list view of your lectures to go and tap. And this is, super dynamic. It fills the screen, and it's totally beautiful, much more visually appealing than the Google Docs that I showed you before. Yeah, so here again, we have Word. This is another notes page that I've made for Acton. This was also part of that cell biology course that I took. You can sort of see like there's a lot of wasted space on the sides, and the toolbar is just always at the top. It's never, out of the way, out of sight. So you really can't enjoy your words and really focus down on the paragraphs as well as you can on craft. And you can see this over here. And so, yeah, so craft, with focus mode, it's total game changer. It takes away the toolbar if you'd like it. Here, you can still see the toolbar pops in when you need it and pops out when you don't. And then, of course, on iOS, the app on Craft has complete editing parity. So it's really good for quick fixes to my notes that I need, or linking other things, putting to-dos in my phone and things like that. So it's a great app for studying, and you can see how big the images are on desktop, and those images also carry over just as big on iOS. So focus mode is a huge game changer, especially if you just want to focus on the words, just like any student would to be studying. It's almost like holding a sheet of paper where there's nothing but the sheet of paper, no toolbar, no excess, sidebars and settings and things like that. So this is great. Yeah. So let's go over here. So these are, now to the study tips. So rather than, just showing off how good the craft looks, because I think we're all familiar with that, I'd like to know, or show you guys exactly how craft can be used to study and how I've used it to study for the past 2 semesters. Cool. So we'll go into that. So yeah, so the very first way I discovered that you could study with craft, of course, is by organizing your notes. So, study by organizing notes, and by extension, you study and organize your mind. So here on the left, I have some, nice paragraphs written from a textbook that I've actually borrowed. And so I put my notes right in here, and you can see how it pastes. If you look below the, where I'm editing, it's very dry. It looks more like Word or Google Docs. It's just, everything's in block formation. And what I do is I go in and I look at my lecture slides, and I take images from there. Just, I just command for it, and take a snapshot, throw it right in Craft. And then as I'm going down and working through the page, I'm trying to contextualize the ideas behind each block. So, I have bolded words randomly thrown in. I have a nice focus block thrown in, and I'm changing the colors of things. You can even tell up here at the very top of the left screen, I have a pink text there. And so what really helps this, in my mind is I'm organizing a hierarchy of data, of information. So so part of this block right here, the no growth, it draws your eyes to no growth and subdivides. And that's really, that's really the direction that I like to focus on. And so what I do is I just go straight to the document. I do this for every single block of text. And what that does is, I can rearrange blocks of text, I can drag them up, drag them down. I can entirely just erase them if I don't need them. But it's like taking your own notes and sculpting it yourself, and making the hierarchy of importance. And that's, I didn't even realize that this was a study technique until I realized, I was like, oh, I know exactly what I did to that exact block. Like I know where that answer is. It's right here. I remember bolding that word. I remember turning it to a focus word, coloring it orange. And so it works. It works. So yeah.
It's okay. Sorry to interrupt. I hope
for
it's
it.
okay to interrupt. And let me know if you want me to wait till the end. But I find that really interesting.
Good.
And in particular, is there a method or a technique for knowing, like, what you want to bold or how you want to organize this? Was there anything you followed, or was it kind of intuitive? Like, how did you make the decision making when it comes to like laying out the page?
Yeah, so when I lay out the page, I really try to follow the pictures that correspond with the page, the lectures where he talked about it and where the textbook has it. So I'll take the slide, and this is the exact slide, he was talking, just giving us a refresher on mitosis. So I took that image, I threw that in. And so I like to call out things with this call out / focus block here with the line. I like to call out things that I think are refreshers, or things that are just like, you should definitely know this. And then as for the regular text itself, I really like to bold these sort of like action words or describing words that sort of contextualize the idea behind everything. So here I have no growth bolded because we're talking about growth, we're talking about divisions, and then I have rather each successive cleavage simply subdivides, and so this idea of growing and subdividing, and that's why I bolded those words there. But yeah, you can really find any text and really take out the main ideas, bold those, and call out the things that you think are really important, just because they stand out so well.
Cool. I like that. In your case, it's kind of like you said, it's almost the verbs, like the action words here, which you've bolded, which kind of gives you the context of everything else going on. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Cheers.
Yeah. And what's great too, and on Craft, is when you do highlight a word, you don't have to, take the mouse all the way to the top of the toolbar and then click bold. The bold toolkit is right above the word you just highlighted, which I think is fantastic. It totally saves a lot of like going back and forth between trying to bold and stuff. And of course, if you want to bold an entire section, the / bold. Once you get used to that, like I'm having to go back to Google Docs on some assignments that require something different, or maybe that's just a platform somebody else prefers to use. And so when I'm on there, I'm always catching myself doing like / bold, and then it's like it doesn't do anything, and I'm like, wow, like this is so cool that this is here.
I'm the same.
So I definitely,
I'm the same with pasting links, like on Craft. I don't know if you've noticed,
absolutely.
but you can just highlight a piece of text and press paste, and the link's there. So when I go back to other tools like
Exactly.
Google, I don't know, Gmail or something, I try to do the same and I always mess up. So I totally get you.
Exactly. Yes. So you really get attached to the quirks and the really the feature set of Craft. So this next page here, I've got I'm talking about referencing. So basically, of course, as we know, you can add any other block of text from any of your other notes. And this is great because it acts almost like a flashcard. You see this little preview here. So right now I was making a study guide actually for one of the lectures that I was in. And so, I just add and I start talking about differentiation. And so, see here right in the preview, it pops up right there on the bigger screen here. And it takes you every single place where that block is. So it's cool because I get to sift through my notes as I'm looking for the word differentiate. And the Craft search engine is actually really, really powerful. I noticed that it picks up things in PDFs too that aren't actual Craft documents, and so it'll sift through basically anything with a word in it, and which is absolutely great because there's so many different things I've got hidden in notes here, backlink that I'm like, where'd this go? But the search is absolutely amazing, especially for documents with so much information and words in them. So I use this sort of like a study guide. I'll do like @ and then I'll look for it, and I'm like, oh yeah, like just as a little reminder of like where this comes from, how to contextualize this definition, and then I might delete @ or I might just click on that block and paste that entire paragraph right there, which I think I go into the next slide here. But yeah, I love using this @ feature just to see where else is this mentioned across all of my notes. Has my professor talked about this? And generally, if you do like / and you put in some random word and you see that word pop up a bunch in your notes, you're like, okay, if I'm not familiar with that word, here's all of these different contexts it's used in, and all of these different ways that I'm basically being told I need to know this word, and how this, how to distinguish this word from other words, determination, differentiation. You can mix those up really quickly. But yeah, so using it as flashcards, it's great. I've loved that feature. Cool. Yeah, and so here you can see I've called this other thing kind of like recalling information. So same idea as a flashcard, except for actually pasting in that document there. So here we're talking about dianine. I was curious about any other places that was mentioned, and sort of behind like the actual mechanism behind how this is actually working. And so I had a previous note that talked exactly about that. And I was able to paste that information right there so that when I'm studying this lecture again, I don't have to go back to the other document or try to reference it again. I automatically have it pasted. And not only is it pasted, but it works as a link. So I can highlight right over that, and it'll just shoot up a little preview of exactly where that came from. And I can click and go to that doc if I need to. And I love that feature so much because it's great because you can also answer questions from your own notes. So when I am making a study guide, oftentimes, I'll add a block and I'll just take what I've already written and throw it right into my study guide by just pasting it right there. And then I have a study guide with all of these different links and answers that I can just click on my iPhone. And you can see on the iPhone, it shows up right there, which images, look how great images look too on iPhone. And you still have the nice background in the back. But yeah, you can just, so it's really cool because it's like this, it's this really nice glossary or table of contents, but for like actual answers and things like that. And I think that's super creative. Oftentimes, in a textbook, it'll be like, oh, reference page so-and-so, which is cool, then I gotta like turn the page and go to that page, but it's just great, to just be able to click right there and have your answers there.
And is that just a copy and paste, or do you paste the the deep link or anything there? Like, is that just a copy and paste job?
No, actually, this is not copy and pasted. So on this previous screen, I'll go back here. If you actually click on one of these blocks here, when you're searching, it'll paste the block that's there by itself.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's great too because you don't have to go and highlight or go and copy. It's right there, right at your fingertips always. So it's cool because it's like I'm always searching like my mind. I'm like, oh, where is this? And it's great to just throw that block right in there for me to see later. Cool. And then here, of course, we have this is also a feature that I use a lot that I think is fantastic. Never would have thought of this on my own. Link to-dos are really great. So at the end of each page, you can reference pages. And so you see it shows up in this light blue text over here, Introduction to Evolution, Introduction to Evolution. And so what I've basically done is called out that page somewhere else. And what's really cool is I can use like tasks and call out different pages. So if I'm reading and going through a lecture, all of the tasks related to that lecture that I've had, here I have my summer 22 landing page. I check over some intro notes, and then I've added the exact page I wanted. So what I can do is I can just go straight to the landing page, and I can just check that off. I don't have to keep up with all of these different to-do pages that I've got set up for myself. And this works for daily notes too. So you can see I have a daily note here at the very bottom of this page. What did Aristotle say about seeing sperm again? So he has a lot to say about developmental biology. And so I'm just referencing that from a different to-do, a daily note actually, which you can see on the iPhone there. And it's great because I can just go in and I can just check that off. And so it's cool because you can also link blocks this way. So little tidbits I have in learning goals. I have a chunk of text that I thought was relevant to this lecture that I've just pasted, not necessarily pasted myself, but I've referenced it and it's just showed up at the bottom of the page. And that's great for when I'm thinking like, what does this lecture relate to? What is the context of this lecture within the rest of the lectures? How is this content relating to my other courses? So you get to build like sort of narrative around your studies, because you get to have all of these references that go back and forth. And of course, the task management here is really great too. And actually, you can see on the iPhone, I've got each day I sort of use as my little like to do. And so when you make it to do, you can see you have overdue tasks once you missed it a day. But this great thing I think is so cute. This pie chart in the corner, top right corner, in each little daily note, it gives you a nice little progress update of like how far have you gotten today. So periodically I'll check my I'll just open up my craft on my phone, like I still got a lot to do today, and I'll look the previous day and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I didn't finish yesterday, so let me start there. And it's great because you can just scroll left and right between these pages and these daily notes, so you can sort of see like a timeline of everything you've done, which I haven't seen other apps do quite as well as Craft's put it in here. And the fact that it's in with all your notes and you can reference other notes, I mean, it just makes the kind of sense that does. So I love using that feature. It's great. Yeah, cool. And also you can see my all documents page. So I know like people like to have separate spaces for certain things. I am such like I like having a huge mess like of documents everywhere. One, because I like how things like look together, but it's cool because I've got like my Panda orders right next to my lecture, so it's like I don't have to switch out of the space. It's all just right there. And I love how it shortens shorter notes and elongates other notes. It looks really visual pleasing, and yeah, I love having it there. So yeah, so we can go to the next slide here. So another great thing that I found with Craft is taking notes, of course, are amazing. But if you take notes and those are amazing, of course you can write great essays. And so I've got on the right here, I've got my notes that I've been taking on presidents for a course in American presidential history, which I can get very confused about just because I'm not a history guy. But over here on the left is my actual essay. So all these words here you see I've written, and so I've referenced the text. So what I've done on the right is I've compiled a bunch of blocky text from a textbook, a book, or something that I've been reading that relates to the course. And so I'll paste that right there into that document with the page number. And so I can just quickly reference that and throw it into my essay. And generally what I'll do is I'll highlight where the quote exactly came from. So I know what part of the text I'm using. I know what page it came from. I know what president it came from. You can see I've got like a toggle with, these are all Truman quotes or quotes about Truman per se. So yeah, so writing essays here is really great just because it's easy to reference other documents, like I said, and you really can just keep your workflow from your notes all the way to your essay. So my essay, this is not how my essay is going to end up looking like, but this is sort of like a great outline that I've sort of made for myself to keep myself very organized, which I think is a general theme across Craft. Organizing your notes has never been easier and never been prettier, I think. I mean, these gradients in the back look, I think, fantastic. So yeah.
I've got one question about this, if that's okay.
Sure.
Do you, when you eventually submit the essay to the professor or whatever, what format do you do that? Is it in like a Craft link, or is it downloaded as a PDF, or is it some other kind of file?
Yeah. So generally what I'll do is once I've gotten through everything, I'll take out my list. I'll take out I'll keep some bolded headings that I really like. And when I export, I'll export as a PDF. And generally Craft keeps to 1-inch margins, which teachers are really fond of. And I'll just submit it like that. If they're a little bit more, sticklers about formatting, let's say I want like a paragraph done a certain way, or maybe a works cited that's exactly so many centimeters apart or something, then I'll probably end up throwing it in like a Google Docs or something, fixing it up just aesthetically with the parameters of whatever they like or whatever font they'd like, and then submitting that way. But my primary organization, happens on Craft.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah. So then we'll go over here, and here this is another great thing that I think is fantastic. So of course we have on the web sharing, and so what we've done here is I work in the lab where we do a lot of protein purification, drug discovery. So we're constantly working with proteins and growing things, and there's a lot of protocols for how to do things. So one of my students, he's created a protocol on his specific protein target. So he's got some information about it here. And what's great is, you can, have cards that link into your document. So what I have here is this nice ion exchange info is not actually part of the same document of workflow. It's actually linked as a card. And so it's got this great interface because I can open this right up on my computer. I'm seeing exactly what he's working on. I'm seeing what he's using. And this will take you into the next slide where it's great for comments and talking about things. So another great thing I'd like to point out is when you share on the web, of course, you have your cards, they stack. So you have workflow, ion exchange, and we have storing resin as a page. And it's cool because it's like sideways. It's like this little, it feels like a little book that you can just kind of swipe through. And there's a great animation shows up when you swipe through back and forth on your on these pages. So it's cool to just sift through the pages that I know that he's working on, and also leaving comments. So another, I think, really huge feature that Craft has is commenting on individual blocks. So here we've got my student Umberto has talked about the resin and storage of things like this, and so I'm just adding a comment on that. Like basement freezer should be fine. He'll ask me a question, and then I usually answer right there on the web. And I think that's that's totally great. I think that's awesome that you can just talk about that, and then you have 3 comments there. So let's say he wants to share this protocol with another friend or another peer, he can, and so that peer has access to the same comments that are linked to this document, which is absolutely great. If you really like to know the context of how did people get here, or like how did we think about this, or maybe he had the same question, and so he'll see that there on that block. So it's cool to see where certain blocks have discussions on them, or some comment thread of further information, which doesn't necessarily need to be shown always. So you don't have to make it necessarily a block of itself, but keeping that in a comment type section where anybody can just ask a question or something. It's really, really great. I think that's totally awesome. Yeah. So I love using documents on the web, specifically for this reason, because anybody can open them. It looks great on mobile. It looks great on your Mac, on Safari, Chrome, or whatever you're opening it up on. It's super fast. It's just gorgeous, easy to read. So yeah. And then that's basically what I've got to show for today. So I was thinking I'd go into like a demo type thing, kind of show you what these documents look like, or if there's any questions about specific things that I've done. I guess that would be the time now. But,
I've got to leave, but thanks for an interesting presentation.
Yep, of course. Yeah, thanks for showing up.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, Adam, or anybody else who's watching in, like if you've got questions for Chance, feel free to leave them either in the chat, or you can even come on screen if you want. And yeah, Chance, if you wanted to do a little demo as well, more than happy to see that. I know I saw it a little bit before. Really loved what you created, so feel free to show a bit of a demo if you feel like it as well.
Cool. Yeah, sure. I can go into that in case we don't have questions. Cool. So I can go ahead and close this out, and I'll share a screen on Craft. Put this guy up real quick. Okay. Share here. Yeah. All right. Cool. Are you guys able to see this?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So this is it's actually just launched up right on my thesis page, but I'll show you a little bit of some other classes I've taken. So here we've got that evolution page here, put it in focus mode. And so you can see it already looks amazing and great. So, I'll open up anything here. Yeah, we've got these great, nice cover photos here. And so you can see this is a document that I have yet to go and organize yet. This is fairly recently. But I'll see how the text pastes in like this. It's so bland. And so what I'll do is sometimes, I'll have these weird paragraph breaks. So I'll go in, I'll just like pull that out, or maybe I'll like strong there. Maybe I like this as a list, and so I'll put it as a list. Another thing, you see the toolbar, how it pops up right there. So it's great to just quick highlight or quick bold, and then go and highlight with something really nice. And so see how quickly I just went so quickly over a couple of these things, and it's almost like second nature now here going through these documents. But see, it's great to organize and contextualize your notes here. And so, yeah, it looks great. You can see this one is another one that I have gone through. This is probably one that was I needed to know a little bit more, but I've got these nice folded here, nice blocks of titles and things like that. This other thing I really like is these, this little like forward and back on the focusing. That's like totally perfect. Here was an office hours that I did. You can see I was like trying to put an image there, or maybe put something there and actually I have to carry it out. But I love, Unsplash is great for throwing in anything very quick. And it just looks, I think it looks fantastic too. Just the way it fills up the page, and it just kind of pushes everything down. You don't have to worry about formatting the image and trying to go into like the details of how do I do this and how does this look? And now with all my information jumping on another page. So it's really great for that.
I've had so many fights with Google Docs over the years trying to move images around and make them look good on Google Docs that I
Exactly
agree with that.
Exactly.
We've had two questions from Adam. One was, what is Unsplash? And two was, how many people have you converted to Graft? Obviously, the difficulty is always, bringing people on board and breaking their old habits if you want to kind of get them to use it with you.
Absolutely, yeah. So the first Unsplash, Unsplash is like a free domain with all of these non-copyrighted photos that you can open up and just put anywhere. So you can search for anything. Usually what I'll search for is something like a gradient, or maybe I'll just search up something like, like a painting or something. It's all this free art that you can just go in and insert right there. And it works absolutely great. Another thing that I like Unsplash for is I like to contextualize images a lot. So, here I might be talking about leaves, or maybe I'll be talking about, the evolution of trees or something. And so it's great. I can actually show you what I mean by that. So over here in developmental biology lectures, you can see how all of these images sort of relate to the communicative, not communicative, I'm literally just reading this in my head. They relate to the content of the page. So here we have speciation here happening, and specification of cells. And so another great thing is you can insert straight from your files too. So you can insert files, and that'll open up your Finder with all your files in it too. Or you can click and drag images straight into your docs. As for how many people have converted to Craft, I've converted about 5 people, all close friends of mine. One of my friends does a lot of poetry, and so she's put all of her poems on Craft. And it's great because the web sharing is like it's a little mini publishing type thing. So sometimes, she'll write something new, and she'll just be like, she'll send me the main document and I can go look through. She has it organized by months, so I can just go look at the new poem that she's created. Other people, she's currently, another one of my friends, she's at Stanford actually, and she uses Craft full-time for all of her PhD notes and lectures and slides and all of the sort of things that she needs to keep in mind. She did her entire application process by using Craft, and so Craft is a great organizing technique really for anything. Here is one of my lectures. You can see sort of got these learning goals, but it's cool because the images that I put here, it helps me remember where things are. And so you can just jump into this document, really great. This one I've created entirely from adding blocks, and I've removed the links here just so I don't accidentally tap on something and open something. But here's where I've referenced the intro to evolution note here. And so that'll show up in this document. But yeah, so that's
Awesome.
a nice preview there. Yeah.
Cool. Adam had one
Sure.
follow-up question actually. It was just,
Sure.
Was it hard to convince them, or did they catch on pretty quickly when you first showed them with Craft?
Yeah. So it wasn't even my intent really to show them Craft. What they did see is I was working on one of my classes here. I was actually working on my thesis here, and so I had it all nice. And so I was working on my introduction actually, and someone came to me and they're like, "Wow, like what is that? This looks amazing. Like what website is this?" I was like, "Oh, like this is an app actually that I've been using." So here I've got like the introduction to my thesis. And so I was working and organizing, and they're like, "Wow, like that's so cool." And I was like, "Oh, you think this is cool?" I was like, "Just watch this." And so I'll show them like, the first thing I think people are like, "Whoa, that's so cool," is that the, slash anything, slash bold, slash this. And so they can see how quickly you can move things, rearrange things if you want by dragging. And so I'm like, yeah, like this is amazing. If I want to throw, a card into another, I can just do it just like that. It's great because it speaks for itself. It didn't take me like saying, "Oh, hey, like let's move over to Craft." It was more of like I was on Craft, I was sharing documents from Craft. People are like, "What is this? This looks really, really cool." And so, yeah, I'll just, take them through my documents. I'm like, yeah, like this is how cool your stuff could look. Here you can see I've got, I'm working on some research here on humans and the evolution of humans. I've got like a book and guys that I've created here. But I have pictures
Nice.
and things like that. So yeah, so I mean, really, once people see what you can do with craft, I think everyone's like, yeah, let's try this out. This looks really cool. So
Nice.
Yep.
We also had Dave just share something to Twitter, so maybe I can put it in the show notes eventually when we put it on YouTube. Dave, I don't know, you can come on screen if you want Dave to quickly mention this, but it looks really cool as well. It's like the way he's used tags with craft in order to kind of like, he's built his own tagging system to help you kind of move around documents and things like that. So that looks really cool. And I can definitely share that in the description.
Yeah. It
Oh
makes
wow,
it
yeah.
Oh, there it is.
having one kind of place where you can go in and be master of your tags, rather than creating new tags and then duplicates. And also when I go in and do research, like I have my tags categorized. It might be by behavior or design or development, and I can go in and look at them, but the categorization doesn't affect the tagging within craft for me. So I really like that as well.
It looks great. Like I really like, again, I'm only had to browse Twitter quickly because I'm obviously on the call, but from what I've seen, even in your post on Twitter, it's well laid out and well described. So definitely check that out. And yeah, we'll share it in the description too.
Yeah, look, I'm more than happy to show it on the screen if you guys want, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, Chance, is that cool with you?
Yeah, go for it. I love seeing this.
That'd be awesome.
So yeah, go for it.
1 second. Okay, should be able to see that now.
Yeah.
So you can see inside, I follow the Paris system. So I have projects and areas, and inside areas, I have general tags, and I have tags under, mindset, areas, status, helpful tags. So, metaphors, quotations, etc. But it makes it really quick and easy to be able to jump to each one of those, or to also tag them within a document. And likewise, then I've categorized people in a separate section, so that at least if I have a discussion with somebody, I can go in there and then I can see the history of that person as well, which is kind of nice if you have meetings and stuff like that, that it all kind of follows into the one place.
I mean, that's very cool.
Talking about companies. Let me see, hold on, public. Okay, yeah, so even stuff like I'd write a lot of stuff in there. Look, I've mentioned an Apple Watch, so it's tagged in there. But if I happen to be writing something on Apple, it's easier to kind of go in there and find it, or the complementary company or something like that as well.
That's cool. I mean, I'm definitely very interested in the people tagging. Like something I've been thinking about using Craft for a while and I haven't got around to it yet. Is using it as like almost like a personal CRM and making notes about people I meet and kind of throwing them like that. So I think that'd be really a good way to use it too.
Yeah, no, and that's what I find is this complements the daily notes well, rather than having to create a document with one person. I don't have to think about anything. I could just go in and I could just tag that person, and I could say I've had lots of chats with this specific person, and you can see that they're all daily notes.
Yeah. So we had a question from Adam. Does it tag to people more than the person, or just person? Meaning, is it the path or just the final tag result? I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Just the final tag result. So let me just, I don't know, let's just grab somebody here. This guy here. And when I click on this, it will bring me into his, but also what's nice about it is when I hover over it, you can see that it's showing me what categorization. Obviously that won't work as well as the amount of people grow, but I may further categorize people as they grow. They're not just public figures, they're specific areas of interest for me as well. But I like the little pop over that it does as well.
Awesome, that's great.
And
have
the navigation at the top for people, so I could still jump back to people or jump back to areas that I have as well.
Cool. No, that answered Adam's question. So yeah, thanks for that. That's a really good insight. And yeah, I'll link to your Twitter post in the description too, so that anyone who sees this on YouTube can also check out your Twitter post. Any other questions for Chance? Were you finished the demo, Chance? Was there anything else you wanted to share with us before we wrap up?
Yeah, actually, there is one thing that I really like, and it is similar in using the toggles. I can just show you really quickly, pulling this up real quick. That I also am just discovering now to use toggles more and more. So here I've got this topics and more sources page, and I have these links to outside pages. So this one is talking about this particular thing, but it's great because you can have just like this huge library of all of these great links. So I've kind of like and other things I've been thinking of making like a life-saving links pages or something with all of these like embedded hierarchical links. Here you can sort of see all of these papers that I've been thinking about, talking about, and then just, it keeps going down and down and down how these things relate. But it's great because right now I would talk a little bit about the way that journals, scientific journals, link pages and reference each other. They've got the sidebar, but there's no hierarchy to how they're referenced, and there's no place for critique of those articles. So what I like to do is when I'm reading something, I'll take some references, but I'll throw in my own hierarchy right in Craft with links to those things. And then if there's any like critique on that paper, or maybe they made a critical error, I just have like another toggle of like critical errors. And so it'll talk about other papers that reference it. And so it's a much better referencing technique than what current journals have today, I think. So I think, the way that, you organize links in your head is toggles make that so much easier. That's about like pretty much the last thing I really want to talk about, but yeah.
So you use it a lot for navigating links to toggles, and like having references for links and backup things for links.
Yes. My professor right now, he uses like Google Drive, and he just throws all of these papers in Google Drive. He's like, well, here they all are. And I'm like, how do these relate? I've got to organize them. I've got to kind of memorize the name, the author, like where this goes. But with Craft, it's so easy to organize where papers come from, what they're influenced by, and people who reference them. So again, organization is like a key theme here with Craft. But yeah, so.
Awesome. Go on.
I'm interested, because you collect so much external information. I'm interested in how you differentiate between other people's words and thoughts and yours in Craft, or do you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for my lectures, what I did on one of my notes for my American history is I'll usually talk about the book, or what I'll do is I'll usually copy and paste a lot of things straight from my professor's notes and things. It's kind of a little wonky. You've kind of really got to like make a note of where this comes from. I usually keep it at the very top of a document of like, this is from, lecture slides, so and so. But right now, as for like the things that I write, I do have specific pages for that, and I have toggles for that. So I'll do like a toggle, like a bolded sentence, and then underneath that sentence is the paragraph that I've written. So I kind of hide my own words within the toggle, and so I'll know that I wrote that, and then external information, will come from other places. And usually I'll have like a toggle that says like books, podcasts, or where it came from. So, or I'll link it. I usually have like on the protocol page, what I've had my student do is I'm like, where did you get this information? Where did this protocol come from? At the bottom, he'll just say like from this protocol, and like he'll just highlight this protocol and throw in the link right there. So I'll be like, okay, that's where it came from. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm using the block quotes an awful lot for references, and whether they be direct references in Craft, or this one, it was just a reference to the book, and I'm trying to split them down. But that's the one, I suppose that's the one tricky thing I find is it's everything is in isolation, rather than how do I delve deeper, how do I kind of hide some of this information to only show my words, or hide some of the information to only show the author's words, or to only show a tag, rather than a tag is just a tag, or a link is just a link, but it doesn't go down further. So I suppose I've kind of resorted to trying to make things as atomic as possible.
Yeah, I really like that approach. I think that looks I think that probably works best, because I do know what you mean, though. It is hard when there's a lot of info out there, and let's say you're writing something to be published or put out there. Plagiarism can become a huge thing. So keeping track of where things come from, I think, oh, I love that. Yeah, I like how you have the link there.
Yeah,
I think that looks really
you
cool.
can see that I've highlighted. This is a different approach, because this is the book, so these are my highlights, and then these are the Chrome highlights. So I've intentionally put them in as a block so that they visually look different as well. And then I just take it. Generally what I do with the notes is I'm only using this as a stopgap to get to my expression. I don't really care about the highlight. It's what's my thoughts at the end of it. So that's just kind of a precursor to my expression. And
Oh, I really like that.
that's
Yeah.
then where the reference comes into play, because this came from that specific book.
That's cool.
I like that. I do like that. Another thing that I found was really cool is I'm when I read books and I'm reading them for my thesis, I generally I'll keep in mind that on a page that has like, I'll put the book title and make it a card. And generally what I'll do is I'll copy direct things from the PDF of that book and throw them in there and reorganize their words in a way that makes more sense to me. But keeping so I never add anything. All I've done is just organize. And but I like the obviousness of that. I like that a lot better, because you're right, it is easy to figure it like who wrote this, where did this, so I like that approach.
Yeah, I definitely think it's all the backlinking is really important. Surprisingly though, what I do like about the lack of tags in here is it encourages more kind of fluidity between your content, rather than how do I categorize this and how do I just add that. That's what I found when I used Rome and Obsidian and stuff, is you just add 25 different tags to a piece of content, rather than thinking, what does this complement? How does this elaborate? Or where can I go from here as well?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to ask you, we're slowly coming towards the end of the hour. So I wanted to just ask you one last question, which I don't think has been touched upon just yet, Chance. Let's say, when it comes to the end of the semester and you've got like some exams and stuff coming up, like how do you then take this wealth of information you've kind of created? Like, what does your kind of revision process look like? Or how do you kind of think about that when you go back in to revise this kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I guess when exams came around, my number one go-to was my learning goals that I've done. So in each lecture, I've got a separate page for learning goals that I've had. And so what I did is I just compiled like a super document of all of my learning goals. And so I just reference all my learning goals there, and I'll just go, document by document. I'll just read and study. And it's cool because you can, open it up on your phone, and while you're walking to class, open up these things and look at them. And the way that the words, pop out at you, even on a smaller screen, still look really great. As for revising, sometimes I'll come back and I'm like, this isn't organized correctly. This lecture should have gone before here, or this really relates. And so what I'll do is I'll just, I'll highlight a block of different texts, or, a couple different lectures at once, and I'll group them, and then I'll move that entire thing above or below. So it's so cool because it's always like you're re-cleaning, you're always revising, and making things make more sense to you. And it's cool because I wish I could watch like a timeline of like how my docs just kind of like are moving around so much. Like it'd be cool to like watch a time lapse of me, writing and changing, organizing.
Cool, awesome. Any other questions or from anyone before we start to think about wrapping up? We had one by Adam. Did you mention if you archive documents after you finished, or do you just let them drift away?
Good question. I've actually had this problem as my documents have like grown and grown and grown and grown. What I find myself doing is I have a folder that I put, and it's called just past semesters. I'll usually take and put all of the documents that I like in that folder, or in a folder of the class name, and I'll throw that class into a past semesters folder. So, it takes it away from me, far, far away, drifts away. But I think it would be cool to maybe archive a PDF. One thing I did notice when we're using protocols, oh, Dave has an archive, completed projects, other resources folder. Oh, if you want to show that, Dave, that'd be really cool. Actually, I'd like to see your take on this.
Okay, so I focus on projects which have a deadline and some sort of end point. And then there are areas which are kind of ongoing responsibility. You have to maintain a standard within them. And then resources are external, so courses and training, and books and stuff like that as well. There could be snippets of code or anything else in there as well, but they're useful. So to me, they're not archived. As what I look at an archive is, it's cold storage, and projects, I need the information now. But what will happen is at the end of a project, I may review the project and say, oh, I will take some of these things and they will go into areas now because I've created some standards for myself. oh, these are useful, I will put those into resources, and everything else for the project will then go into the archive. That's going to, you know, it's more the filing cabinet, let's forget about that sort of stuff as well. So it makes it a bit more digestible to kind of, and I suppose actionable. This is what I'm working on right now, and then I can pull all the information. When it's finished, it eventually goes to archives, but all that information, I don't want it to be wasted. I don't want the new project of the same type to have to start from zero again. I've learned all that sort of stuff, so let's move it in. So even in here, I would have you know, the different kind of checklists and stuff that I would have created from a project, but I only needed it for that first project. So I wasn't trying to be uber organized. I was like, let's create it in a useful manner for something that is actually actionable right now. So those 4 areas there, projects, areas, resources, and archives, they follow suit in my bookmarks. They follow suit in my Dropbox folder, so that if I'm working on a project and it's not notes, if it's files or it's bookmarks, I know where to go because it follows that same structure as well.
I love that. Esme last week in the Showcase Your Craft last week had this incredible Johnny Decimal method for like this kind of thing, and she applies it to so many different areas too.
Yeah, I do both, and I don't go too far down the rabbit hole on Johnny Decimal. You know, 0, 1, 0, 2 to 4. In the past, I went crazy on it, and it got too confusing. But what I will tell you that I do is everything is from an action or a timeline. So even folders on my desktop, if it's a project folder, 0, 0 are kind of, you know, random admin stuff that you can keep adding to over the life of the project. But 0, 1 is the first step of the project, and maybe gathering content or research. 0, 2 maybe digesting and creating something. So it allows me, when I think what frame of mind I'm in, oh, I'm now designing or I'm now building, I can quickly forget about the first 3 folders in that project. But each project is different, and for me, Johnny Decimal will put things in kind of concrete, whereas I'm like, what's the flow of this project?
Makes sense. And Adam here said in the chat as well that, yeah, finding the organization balance is definitely a challenge. Like, we want to be organized, but you know, when the job itself is organizing your work, it's gone too far.
Isn't it interesting though that like we would look at jobs a long time ago where people worked with filing cabinets in, you know, in real life, and look at those as mundane jobs, and we spend so much time organizing digital filing cabinets now and feeling productive.
So true. Chance, did you want to finish off? Did you want one last thought you wanted to share before we start wrapping things up?
I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, I mean, I've been using this 2 semesters, still using it during the summer and for my research progress. I definitely think that a lot of students would find this very useful. I plan on using craft after I graduate for my for whatever work I've got or what's going on. And I think it's been great to see how craft's evolving, and to really, like, you know, provide students with a great feature set that really, I think, enables all of these great study techniques, organization, which I think is more important than ever. Organizing your mind, thoughts, and papers, I think, especially from going from the, you know, usual just open up a Word doc and just start writing. You know, it's so much cooler when you have all of these references and this great place for all of these things to live in one place. Cool. And I'm actually, Adam, you're asking, am I using iCloud or AWS or something, or both? I use iCloud to sync everything. I'm an Apple user. I've got an iPhone, a Mac, and an iPad. And so, yeah, I use iCloud to sync everything.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to share your experience and your insights. And just, yeah, for anybody watching in, like, this is something we want to do on a regular basis, like highlighting how craft can be used, highlighting really cool ways that people are doing stuff, and just really just showing, you know, what you can do and what's possible. So thanks so much for everyone who joined live. Thank you, Chance, again. And yeah, lots of cool comments as well. So thanks everyone. And yeah, there'll be another event probably next week, the next Showcase Your Craft. And that's a much more broader look at several people's crafts. So definitely keep an eye out for that as well. Thank you guys, and enjoy the rest of your days, evenings, and everything else. See you later, guys.